Hello again, everyone. Today I am going to be going through this tray 3 of 4 of my hand-turned acrylic pens. I will put a link down below to video 1 and 2 in this series. And the first video will give you a little bit more information on the trays that I'm using, and we'll kind of set up the scenario. So I'll put those links down below. As with the other 2 videos and the 4th, which will be the final video, I am not going to do writing samples with any of these pens. I'm just going to go through them and show you the nibs and tell you who is the maker of all of these. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. So this first one here is by Woodshed Pen Company. Actually, let me get in a little closer so that you can see these pens one by one. And so this is an unnamed blank made in-house by Woodshed Pen Company. And sometimes they'll do one-offs of these that will be posted to the website, but they go pretty fast. So if you ever see something like that, this one particularly appealed to me because obviously it's a demonstrator, it's sparkly, it does have the polished insides that I like, and I just really like the look of it. So let's go ahead and open this up. And this has, let's see, what does this have? This is, oh, so this is one of my favorite nibs, actually. This is a Fine Architect nib by the nib grinder. And I talked about these before, and as you can see, the tip is fairly small, but it still has that architect shape with sort of the little angle here. So it will make broader lines side to side than it will up and down. And this is definitely one of my all-time favorite nib types. I also have a micro, what you call a micro one. I don't know if I have it in here in one of these, but that one I also really like. This one and that one are probably my 2 favorite nibs in my entire collection. And I just thought it went really well with this pen because it's super nice. And I think I've mentioned before that even though these pens are a little bit smaller than some of the other acrylic pen models that I have, it's really comfortable in the hand. It has a nice balance, and it really does use the space pretty efficiently because this converter that's in here goes pretty much all the way to the end of the space inside the pen. So I feel like it's being used pretty efficiently, and then when you close pen, the nib is pretty much right up to where the inside ends here too. So I think that's pretty cool. And I think most of these could be eyedroppered if you wanted to. I would definitely put some silicone grease onto the threads here, to these threads here, if you are ever going to put ink directly into the body. And it can stain, obviously. That's one of the reasons why I have not done that with this one, but especially with the demonstrator pens where you could see the ink level, it might be fun to do that. But like I said, I've been using most of these, even the demonstrators, with converters inside. Okay, let's go on to the next one, which is also a Woodshed Pen Company pen. And this is another pen that I got directly from, or not directly, from the nib grinder, his website. And I think I mentioned in one of the prior videos that they do carry a selection of hand-turned pens, I think mostly from Woodshed Pen Company. And sometimes they'll have some Ultem pens by, I think it's a brand name Kasama. They will sometimes have those. I don't have any of those. They're really, really nice though. So if you're ever interested in that, sometimes they have those. But I did buy this with a custom ground nib on it. And I'm not sure what the colorway is. I think this might be something like Galactic Unicorn or something like that, because I think it is a Brooks blank. But again, I'm not entirely sure because it was not labeled when I bought it. And the main reason why I bought it is just because it's a really nice pen. And you can see there's actually, I think you can see, yeah, there's actually additional sparkles in there, which is really, really fun. And it actually is pretty close to the last one, but it's a little more blue and has, this one's a little more greenish and this one's a little more blue. And this has a little bit more actual swirl content in there, whereas this is almost entirely clear. It does have some purple shine in there like this one does as well. But anyway, I love those two pens. And so on here, I do have a nib grinder nib, and this is probably the one that came on it when I bought it from the nib grinder. This is a medium cursive italic. So this is the only cursive italic I have by the nib grinder. And I do think it's a really nice nib. I just don't think that it's my favorite cursive italic nib. I actually would have to think about who makes my favorite cursive italic nib grind. But I really do think that nib grinder does an amazing job on their architect nibs. And I think this one was just okay, but that's still really good. I mean, I don't want to deter you from getting a cursive italic nib from the nib grinder, but if I were to choose the architect or the cursive italic, I would definitely go with the architect from the nib grinder. Okay, so let's go on to the next pen, which is this guy from Little Pen Designs, and I've forgotten what this coloring is called. There's a specific name for the material where it's like this little grid-like thing that looks a little like snakeskin. And this is obviously in a turquoise color, but like I said, I've kind of forgotten. And this model, I don't see very much, especially not anymore at Little Pen Designs. It's sort of like a cigar shape with the rounded ends on either side. I think I prefer the stubby end pens rather than the rounded nibbed or the rounded ended pens, but this is a really nice material and it's a well-made pen. So on here I have a Bach 1.1 stub nib. So this is just, actually, who does that say Bach on it? I cannot read. I think it does just say Bach. And this I just got off another pen that had a Bach nib on it, I think. I don't think I bought this separately. So it's actually a really nice writer. I do like Bach's stub 1.1 nibs quite a bit. They write really well. I haven't come across one for me that has had any scratchiness issues or anything like that, but I think that is a possibility. So, but I haven't had that issue. All right, so this next one, as you can tell, this is sort of my blue and green tray. So this one here is from a nib, or sorry, it's from an acrylic pen company that I haven't shown before. This is Birmingham Pen Company. Actually, I think I did show it was either the unboxing or me using this pen back when I first got it, because this was actually one of my first hand-turned acrylic pens, and kind of got the ball rolling on all of these. So this has a 0.6 stub nib, and this is actually a Nemacine nib, so it's a little bit different than the Bach and the Yovo nibs. And Nemacine I don't think exists anymore as a company. So I've seen these still available as individual nibs on Birmingham's website, but I don't know if they'll be there forever or if they'll be getting more stock or what the deal is, or if they just had a ton of stock. But this 0.6 stub nib, you know, it's smaller than the 1.1 obviously, and I really, really like it. It writes really, really nicely. Okay. Oh, and I did want to mention the Birmingham Pen Company does have a lot of really nice inks as well that they make in-house. So their pens come up rather infrequently, and when they do, they're sort of in a batch. But in the meantime, they have inks, which are really nice. Okay, so what was this one? Okay, so this is another pen from Whim Woodworks. And this, I think it was Emerald Koi might be the name of this one, which I believe is another Brooks Blanks. Very, very common blank in my collection. This one is just super pretty with all the really nice swirls. And what I kind of like about it is it gets white down at the end, or off-white, and down at the top. And then it has this really sort of intense green in the middle, and then it kind of goes outward, which I really like. Okay, and this is not labeled, so let's see what we have here. Oh, okay. So this is actually a Leonardo nib that is a flex nib, a flex steel nib, and they started coming out with these recently. I'm trying, oh, that's just ink. I was like, what's the weird shape of this nib? There's just some ink crusted up on there. I can actually, let me find a paper towel to get that off, which is of course buried under several things here. Yeah. There you go. That looks more normal. So I think this one was a fine. Does it say on there? I can't see. Oh, there it is on the side. Yeah, it's a fine flex steel nib, and I don't know who these are made by. They're either Bach or Yovo, but I can't remember. It might be Yovo because I know they've come out with some steel flex nibs branded for themselves as well. But I haven't used this nib a lot actually, so I probably should use it more to kind of play around with it a little bit more. So I don't really have much of an opinion on it yet. Okay, and this one is another, which one is this one? This is, I think this is Little Pen Designs. I had to look at my list. So this is Little Pen Designs. It's another sparkly pen. And it's just really pretty. For a while, I was really into these sort of solid, sparkly pens. I still am, but I think my collection's pretty good now. So, and then on here, I actually have a medium stub nib that I ground myself. I think I have a video on my channel about the details of how I hand ground this stub nib. It's actually pretty simple if once you get started and can kind of get past the pressure of of grinding your own nib. I've done stub nibs and an architect nib or two. I think I may have done two, and they both just have, you know, a particular process to follow. And I'll see if I can find the video where I talked about hand grinding this so that you can have the references that are there that I used to get the info on how to grind the nib. Okay, so this one here is by Whim Woodworks again, and this, I forget the blank company that made this, but it's not Brooks Blanks. I just cannot remember the name of it, but this is definitely really pretty. It's, I would say, well, it's not polished on the inside, but it is sort of like semi-demonstrator. You can see through it just a little bit, but it's a really beautiful green color. And as you can see, so the different, these are actually pretty close to each other, but there is a range in how wide these Whim Woodworks pens are. So this one actually is a little bit narrower. I don't know if you can tell that, but especially at the top, it's a little bit narrower, but they're all gonna be different because they're not made by a machine. Well, at least they have a human hand in them. There's probably machines involved. Okay, and then in here, I have a Yovo Extra Fine Full Flex Nib. Ah, okay. Yes, so I remember I had forgotten where this went. So this is a full flex nib that I got from fpnibs.com. fpnibs.com has started making their own semi-flex and full flex nibs. And they are truly full flex and semi-flex. They really flex quite a bit. They're steel. I mean, I know they'll do a flex custom on a gold nib, but I'm not sure. I don't think they carry them regularly, because I actually purchased this, well, sort of off the shelf. He had already made it, and it was made available. And these are really kind of interesting. And it takes a little bit of getting used to writing with these, just because you have to figure out how much pressure you can and can't put on it. But once you get into the hang of it, it's actually pretty easy. I would actually recommend, if someone wants a steel flex nib from fpnibs.com, I would recommend going with the semi-flex first, because there actually is quite a bit of flex in their semi-flex, and it's a little bit more manageable than the full flex, because the full flex is so soft, you could very easily accidentally spring the tines open, and then your nib is ruined. I actually did do that so I got a full flex size 5 nib, and I did end up springing the tines on that one. And that hasn't been an issue with this one. I don't know if I was just more gentle with it or more harsh on the other one, but that was a lesson learned for me. You know, don't push it to the max on those. Okay, and so this is a pen company that I don't think I've profiled yet. This is Den's Pens. This is made by Den's Pens. They're the person who makes these is located in the UK. This is hand polished on the inside, and I think this is an in-house resin pour, at least I'm pretty sure. And then this actually has one of my favorite nibs on it. This is a Bach 14 karat gold, what is it called? Flash slit? Yes, it's called Flash Slit. And then this is also from fpnibs.com, and then I had the little heart added. That was an additional cost to add the heart. But I just thought this was really, really cute, and I really love it a lot. And I also put red ink in there so that it could be, you know, coming from the heart, I suppose. Anyway, I thought I was being clever at the time. But this is a really, really beautiful nib. And I think, is this a Yovo nib? I think it is. I think, I actually cannot remember. It might be a Bach housing oriented nib, but I really can't remember. They'll be on the website. If you looked up Flash Slit, like if you just did a search for that on the website, this would come up. And because it does have the extra little sort of squiggly lines in there, it does have a little bit more flex than a regular gold nib would have. But again, you can't push it with these because you don't want to spring the tines. But this one, it writes beautifully. It's really, really pretty. And I can't remember, does it say whether it's broad or medium or whatever? Let's see. It does not say, and I can't remember if you could specify. Oh no, it's a fine. Okay, so here I have fine. But yeah, I wanted to go with the fine because I knew it would write a little bit wetter than some pens or some nibs because of the Flash Slit. And being a gold nib, it's going to write wider anyway because gold nibs tend to have a higher ink flow. Okay, and then this is a fairly recent acquisition, actually. So this is a Brooks Blanks primary pastel. I think that's what it's called. But it's like the primary manipulation, but it is with pastel colors. And this one I actually purchased secondhand from someone on Instagram who was selling it. And this pen is by Champion Turnings, who I had not had any pens from, and it's actually quite a lovely pen. It's, you know, fairly standard design, but that's not unusual. And I do like that the grip section is not too small. It's actually a little bigger. I tend to like a bigger grip section. It kind of eases the pressure on my fingers when the nib section is broader. That's at least what my experience is. Okay, so my camera for some reason stopped recording at the tail end of showing this particular pen, and I still have 2 pens left, so I'm going to quickly go through those. So this is that primary manipulation pastel, and I think what I was about to say was the nib that's on here, which is a Fountain Pen Revolution cheapy architect nib. So they recently started stocking this on Fountain Pen Revolution's website, and I do wonder if this is maybe similar to the, I think it's called the long knife, and then some other standard architect nibs that I've gotten off of eBay or something like that, that I think originally come from China. But I do just wonder if it's branded for them, but is that same nib? Because they write similarly, although I think it does. Okay, so I keep getting cut off. I'm gonna try this again and we'll see. I went and did a check for a software update and restarted my phone, so we'll see if this works for a longer period of time now. It better. All right, so I just finished talking about the primary manipulation pastel pen from Champion Turnings, and now I'm going to talk about this pen, which is from Walltown Pens. And it's a little different from the other models that I have from them. Those are a little bit shorter and a little bit differently shaped at the ends. And this one is sort of a slightly higher end model. It has this little ink viewing window here, and I have actually dropper filled this pen before, and it's actually worked really well as a dropper fill pen. So that's completely an option here, I would say. And the nib that I have on here is a nib grinder, or I'm sorry, not a nib grinder. Sorry, I got all thrown out of whack for my camera turning off. Okay, so this is a Nagahara needlepoint, and it's basically like an ultra extra fine. I got this from Franklin Christoph. This is their new nib grinder that does sort of specialty grinds for them. And one of the things that I like about this nib is that it's smooth, even though it's super tiny. You could use it for very fine sketching, but you could also use it for writing if you wanted to write in very small spaces. It's actually quite nice for that because of its smoothness. All right, and I think that the blank is called Unicorn Poop, but I can't remember who makes it. It's one of those big pen blank makers, but that's that one. And then we're going to go to the last pen in this collection, which is another another Woodshed Pen Company pen. And as you can see, they're all the same models. So they may vary slightly in size. Like this one is just like a hair taller, I think. But they're all going to be pretty much the same model that you get from Woodshed Pen Company. And this was actually the first Woodshed Pen Company pen that I got, and I got it secondhand because first off, I could not get a hold of one directly from Woodshed. I think at the time they just weren't making a lot of pens, or you know, their updates would sell out pretty quickly. And I really love this sort of light abalone color. It's just really pretty. And an added bonus is generally when I get secondhand pens, they tend to be a little less expensive. So that's nice too. All right, and then the nib on here is an extra fine Fude nib. So I don't know if we've talked about Fude nibs really much on the channel here. So Fude nib is basically like an extreme version of that, the other nib that has a slight curve in it. This has a very sharp curve, and you can get really broad lines here on this flat part, and then you can also turn it over and get really fine lines, because is this an extra fine? Yes, it's an extra fine. And this is another nib that I had custom made by fpnibs.com. And basically I would say most of the custom types of nibs are available from FP Nibs. I haven't seen things like the like something comparable to like the super special grinds from Sailor. I haven't seen anything like that other than the Zoom nib. But I have seen most other designs, including the Fude nib. Fude, I think, is most useful for drawing, but I know that some people write with them and like them as a general writing pen. Okay, I'm gonna scoot these back in here. And okay, I'll scoot back out. Uh-oh, now you're seeing all the buttons and stuff on my desk. Okay, there we go. All right, so that is tray 3 of 4 for these hand-turned acrylic pens. And there's only one more left in this series. And hopefully that will go a little bit smoother and I won't have the constant camera stopping, because basically now I have stitched all these portions of this video together to make one video. All right, well, that's all I had for you today. Feel free to subscribe to keep track of future videos on my channel. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. I hope to see you next time, but in the meantime, have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye.